I got a lot of stuff here. It's just, I'm going to go way back. I was baptized G. Ray Jordan, 1932. He was here for 3 years. And in the Western Conference, 3 years was enough here, and they sent him to Centenary in Winston. And then when we had the new church built, he and a bunch of other former pastors came and spoke yet again. So, okay, I'm going to tell one too. Let's see. Helen Millis Covington called me. We had just finished this part of the church. How would you like to teach Sunday school to some of these 8th graders? And I said, okay. So I tried it for like 4 times. I could not get them to sit still. I could not get them to listen to me. But she also got Buzz Lowe, who was the greatest salesman this church has ever known. And Buzz did fine with them. So I called her up after about a month. And I said, I believe I've had it. So anyway, that was right upstairs here. I'm just going to mention some of the old pastors that I knew that go way back to the 40s. Dr. Rozelle. Dr. Rozelle was here from 41 to 45. And I was about 8 years old then. But I was there, and I remember he had a big booming voice, but he would sort of get down like this, and he would go, and he'd go back there, and then he'd go like this. That was Dr. Rozelle.
And I have a really funny story. My ancestors were the Secrests, and that home at that time was on South Main Street, now where Ilderton Dodge and everything is. But Dr. Rozelle would leave Main Street, Wesley Memorial, and walk down the street to my grandmother's house, the Secrest home. And I've always been told that he'd open the front door and rear back on his heels over the register in the hallway and say, "Florence, what's for lunch?" So he went down many, many days, and they never knew, but Dr. Rozelle would show up and say, "What's for lunch, Florence?"
The one with the longest tenure was Dr. Bernard Fitzgerald, 1970 to 1979, that's 9 years. And he was always using words that I didn't understand. He used the word dichotomy a lot. Now, you may know what dichotomy means. You can go look it up. But anyway, I'd have to go look up.
Well, I feel so very blessed to have grown up in Wesley Memorial Church. Had so many wonderful, of course, parents, wonderful mentors in teaching us what was right. Had so many wonderful Sunday school teachers that it's just hard to even name them. We were blessed. And as in Sunday school, when we were young, I was in the church on Main Street growing up, and we would have Sunday school first, and then we'd all meet in a center room with Miss Cherry, who was just a wonderful Bible teacher and a wonderful person. So many blessed memories. I do have one humorous one, and I've gotten permission from Vicki to tell it because we have to laugh sometimes at ourselves. But my first experience with Spin the Bottle was in Vicki's basement at MYF. I'm sure Jesus was with us and God was laughing at us. We were not too rowdy, that's for sure. But again, I just feel blessed to still be at Wesley Memorial and all the wonderful things that are happening now.
I remember we had to build this building here, it took 3 fundraisers. We got close, and the sanctuary came a little later on, a couple of years after we finished this. The sanctuary was about $1.5 million, and all this here was about close to 3 or something like that. And we had to have down the dining halls. So we didn't have a sanctuary. Barbara and I got married in the dining hall. In the fellowship hall.
Here, my father and 3 other fathers started that back in those days, and we played ball out there. You know where the out front, that green area, that was our football field. And they started building a church, and they started plugging us under, and we got real mad. But we got over that. It's just, everything happened. But there was a lot that I learned here, all about the church.
But I grew up 2 blocks from here. And so before this facility was built, we spent a lot of time in the woods, in the creek, and doing
Same
not
Creek.
doing not churchy things, I suppose. But when they were building the sanctuary, I went in there one day, and the construction crews had already gone, and I went up into the balcony. And they had poured the floors, but they hadn't set the flagstone. And I was standing in the balcony, and there was a big pile of gravel laying right there in front of the balcony. So I jumped off, and thank goodness I landed on my back. It knocked the wind out of me. And well, one of the construction workers saw it. He hadn't left yet, and he said, "Boy, you all right?" Of course, I had the wind knocked out. I couldn't answer right away. I'm sure I was making funny noises, but it was no words. And I was fine. But that sudden stop was sort of got my attention.
Here, which was all woods, and over to Florham, Ash, Spruce, Arbordale, and this end of Rotary, there were probably 60 to 70 children that grew up in this area. And it was not uncommon. And we all walked to school, and we all walked to church, and we all played. Well, I didn't play, but all the boys played in the woods. So there was quite something when the woods were taken down and the church was built. But there were numerous children within spitting distance of this church.
But I also remember Howard Coble, of course, and when I got out of the Army, Howard came in '54, and I was singing in the choir under Miss Mildred Crowder in the old church. She had people that come in their youth choir and sang with us. So Mildred left, and Howard came in 1954, and I came back from the Army in '57, and he lived on Parkway, and I lived on Rotary. One day, a doorbell rang, and it was Howard. He said, "You got to come sing with us." And I said, "All right." And that was it. So I've been with him for all these years. So I'm still in the choir, and I love this church. I've just been blessed to be here all these years and still be able to talk about it. So that's about all I've got.
But I just remember being in the kids' choir at the church on Main Street, and how gentle Howard Coble was with us unruly kids, and how he got us to sing in any way.
It was musical.
Well, it ended up being musical, but I guess it was because the piano was playing loud enough. But anyway, this has been the only church I've ever belonged to. Now, I was gone from here for 13 years, pastoring other churches. But I think every sermon I preached had its roots in what I learned here. And I'm so thankful for the leadership that we've had, both clergy and laity. And to keep this old girl going as strong as she is, through all the troubles. It's been a great thing, and I'm still blessed to be a part of it. Well, Lawson Ingram was the scoutmaster, and he was the consummate outdoorsman. And he would find people with farms or whatever, vacant lots. It didn't matter. Any place where we could pitch a bunch of tents. And, of course, there weren't a lot of, outdoor burning regulations at the time. And we all dug fire pits and all that stuff. So it was very safely done. But as kids will do, I'm not going to mention any names. I witnessed it. I didn't take part in it, but they were heating up sticks and throwing them at each other. And, little fires broke out at several places. And we were lucky that we didn't burn Shepherd's Mountain to the ground. But, the adult leaders that helped, and I guess when you look at a normal-sized scout troop that had like 6 patrols with 8 boys, that's 48 kids right there. Then, of course, one of the great things about scouting is the older ones take the young ones under their wing and teach them how to be a scout. And, well, that's the main thing. But yes, but how else are boys going to learn the ways of the world? It's from the older boys. But, I had friends at school that heard all the rumors about the bowling alley here and the swimming pool and all of that stuff. Well, I know where the bowling alley was, but I ain't found the swimming pool yet. But I had some of the finest men and women that I've ever met that were my Sunday school teachers.
Okay, well, I was born in the church also, but I was a child of Main Street. But Ken talked about several ministers. He mentioned Julian Lindsay, and when he was here as assistant minister, he and his wife, Fran, became good friends of my parents. So even though he wasn't a minister at the time I was 3, I was baptized or christened at the Secreast home as a 3-year-old. So he has been a large part of our family for years and years and years. And then the last, Dr. James Huggin was the father of Martha Huggin Yarborough. And he came to town just as she and I entered Greensboro College as freshmen. So I got to know her, although I wasn't here much during the Sundays while we were at Greensboro College. And, one thing I remember, my grandparents were also, and my great-grandparents were members of Wesley Memorial. And my grandfather would walk from where the main post office is now, on the corner of Centennial and Green. That used to be Mangum Avenue and Green. And he would walk all the way from there to Wesley Memorial on Main Street. And there he would wait for the 6 and 8 sons and daughters that still lived in High Point. We would wait outside the church. If there's one photograph of the church that we have found that shows a side portico, and we would wait as a family every Sunday after Sunday school and after the mothers-in-law and the aunts and uncles came, and we would stand there and wait until my grandfather said, they would look at me and say, "Dad, you ready?" And he'd say, "Mm-hmm." And we would file into the side of that church, and sometimes there were 20 and sometimes there were 40 of us that went as a family down the side aisle of Wesley Memorial Church, and we would sit as a family. And the word we found out later was if somebody had gone in and sat in those 2 or 3 pews, they were gently told, "You might want to move. There is a massive group coming in.